record, pin this. All right, I'm getting kind of fast at that. All right, so week of 5/17/5/21, current week. I put in here a thing that says Fish Information Project. So in the folder for this week, there's a thing that says Fish Information Project description. So uh, out in the hallway aquariums, I I had to take down all the TVs for a couple different reasons. But you may have noticed in the past there are TV displays that are above the aquariums, and those TVs can have information on them. Sometimes I've run movies, had slideshows and stuff. In the last year, I've been a little negligent on keeping up with those, and we've had changes in fish and whatnot. But the plan is for me to put slideshows up there that roll for next school year that include information about fish and coral that are in the tanks. So here's what I did. I think I've got all these kind of lined up right. There's 3 aquariums that are display aquariums. The first one is our big 550-gallon tank. Then there's the 300-gallon tank, and then another 300-gallon tank. So there's a list that says 550-gallon tank inhabitants, and this is a list of the fish that are in the 550-gallon tank. And beside it, like you're just in alphabetical order here. I just kind of like randomly assign you a fish, and you could be in the 300-gallon tank. 300-gallon aquarium 1 is the one that's closer to my room beside the 550. 300-gallon aquarium 2 is one nearest the hub. And then the paludarium's in the back right corner of the classroom. And the idea is to make a single slide with information that we can rotate through the screen. Okay, so when you click on the assignment for Fish Information Project, there's a template for an individual PowerPoint slide. You have to use that template because it has the correct resolution and aspect ratio for the monitors that are going to be up there. But it's also kind of like a starting point for you. The goal is to make a single slide that provides information about the fish. So it's like if you go to a zoo and you see an animal and you're like, hey, I want to know what that animal is. There's a picture of the animal. It tells you a little bit of information, just a quick and dirty, what's the deal with this fish? So if somebody sees that fish, they can then wait for the slideshow to come around to that fish, see the name of the fish, and little information about it. So this is a fish called a lagoon triggerfish, also called a Picasso trigger. And underneath is the Latin name. So that's the name that everyone agrees to, because a lot of fish have multiple names. This is like where they're found, what kind of diet they have, something about their behavior, and then a peculiar feature about the fish. So in the rubric where it says biological oceanography, let's see, get back to the rubric. Where it says Fish Information Project Description, the goal is to have a picture of the fish. You should go out in the hallway and look at your fish to find your fish. You can find a picture of your fish online. The common name of the fish, the Latin name of the fish. Latin name is always capitalized for the genus, lowercase for the species, and it's always italicized. So just like this one here, Rhinocanthus acaleatus, this is capitalized, that's lowercase for the genus and species. Natural habitat where it's found. Some fish are found all over the world. Some fish are found in very limited regions. What's their behavior like? What's their diet like? And if there's any interesting information.
Do we have any fish that are found that are like rare?
Do we have fish that are rare?
Yeah, like found in only specific regions.
Yeah, well, there's a fish. The Banggai Cardinal Fish is an excellent example of a. So this fish is called the Banggai Cardinal Fish or the Cotterns Cardinal Fish. There are a bunch of them in the aquariums. It's actually only found around one island in an archipelago in Indonesia. So its geographic region is incredibly limited. It's also highly endangered. It's way at the top of the endangered species list. In fact, the natural population of it sometimes gets down to just a few handful of fish. So it's very endangered in the wild. But it's one of the easiest fish to breed in captivity. And in fact, this says captive bred fish. All the ones that we buy in our hobby are all captive bred. They're bred in aquariums. They're paternal mouth brooders. So let me show you.
That was the price for the fish. That's $29.99.
Yeah, and it's a little bit high.
That's why it's so cheap, because they're so easy to breed.
Partly. Well, it turns out that the typical price, so COVID has changed the fish market a lot.
Yeah.
Typically, you'd pay I would expect within a year they'll get back down to 15 to 20 bucks a piece. But
That's still not that bad.
so there are different types of reproductive strategies, and Bengai cardinal fish are paternal mouth brooders. So what that means is, see, look at baby fish in the fish's mouth. What the fish do is they lay eggs on the substrate and they're fertilized, and then they pick the eggs up and hold them in their mouth, and the babies develop in the parent's mouth. And the bottom of their jaw is a thing called a buccal sac, and that sac extends, like they end up with like a big thing underneath their jaw. And then when it's time, they just spit the babies out. And the babies are like super duper tiny. Parent will typically have, so here, this is a good example. That's the one, and this is the other. You can see the buccal sac extended. This one's not extended. So yeah, this one here, you can tell this one is gravid, or it's holding babies. So typically in mouth brooding, it's typically the female, but among cardinal fish, it's paternal mouth brooders. So it's the male who holds the babies. I mean, the most peculiar are like seahorses. Not only does the male hold the babies, fertilization happens within the male's body. In other words, the female transfers the eggs to the male, and the male does all the fertilization within his body. That's incredibly peculiar.
How long does it take for them to mature, the eggs?
A week and a half, 2 weeks.
So the fish can go without eating until they're ready.
That's right. They don't eat during that time. And there's a couple different techniques. So you can let them just, oh, here you see those little tails hanging out? You can let them just spit the babies out, but then the babies get picked up in filtration. They might get eaten by other fish. So a lot of times we do what we call stripping them. So whenever you see that they first have the eggs, you keep track for a certain number of days until they're pretty good to go. And then you actually catch the fish, and then you grab it by the jaw and shake the babies out.
And they're ready by then?
Yeah. So what happens is you kind of get used to it for certain pairs. So let's say they always spit on day 10. You'll wait maybe day 8. Then you strip the eggs. I used to breed, there's another O in there. I used to breed these fish. They're Siphotilapia frontosas, and they are native to a lake in Africa called Lake Tanganyika. They're maternal mouth brooders. So the female holds the eggs, but that's like 33 days for gestation. So she doesn't eat for 33 days. So the deal is those fish, you gotta really fatten them up, because the fish has to not only have enough excess energy to produce eggs, but then have enough energy to be like, listen, I got not only enough energy to produce eggs, but I got enough energy to like fast for 30 days and hold these eggs. So what I do is I'd let them go to like about day 20, and then strip the babies out. And but these fish are pretty big, and they fight you pretty bad. They will, they're like this big, and they're real strong. So you take them out. She really doesn't want to. Fish don't want to be handled. They really don't want to be handled when they're gravid, when they have babies. And then I would like hold the fish with one hand, like upside down in a bucket, stick my finger and pull her jaw open, and just start shaking, and the babies would come out. And the one that I had, they would have about 60 babies at a time. And that was,
you can't keep a, you sell them, don't
yeah, about every 40 days, I'd get 60 babies. So it's a rate of about a baby and a half per day, about a baby a day.
Yeah.
And let's see. Yeah. For freshwater fish, they're pretty much the top of the game. Yeah, so here they're charging that's actually a really good deal. $19 for juveniles. So whenever they're juveniles, they all look the same, and you can't tell them they're not sexually dimorphic, which means this is like a juvenile. You can't tell male from female, but how they go is the males grow these big humps on their forehead. It's just a big ball of fat, and female frontosas prefer males with big fat humps on their forehead, which is kind of weird. The females remain like this, so this is like a female, but the males grow much bigger with a big fat hump.
Aren't fish like usually like the males are smarter or not smarter? The males are smaller than the females.
With clownfish, it's that way. With many fish, so most fish in the ocean, in fact, all of our fish in our aquariums, they're generally not sexually dimorphic, which means there's no difference between male and female. They're usually identical in size. Of all of our fish, the only ones you can tell difference are clownfish. The cardinal fish you can, because their ventral fins are slightly different on male and female, but it's still tricky to tell. But generally, if there's a difference, the males are typically bigger than the females. Like, kind of in general. But for most saltwater fish, there's no difference. You can't tell. Like with tangs, you can never tell. So I accidentally got a J in there. Not tang, the drink. So tangs, or also called surgeonfish, we keep quite a few tangs. They are never sexually dimorphic. The only way you can tell is cut them open. They're totally identical. It's like we have blue tangs or regal tangs like Dory. We've got yellow tangs. Sohal tangs are my absolute favorite fish ever. We've got a sohal. We got purple tangs. One of the most beautiful sailfin tangs anywhere is at Lycoming College. We've had some of these other ones too. But like here in this school of powder blues, like there's about equal number of males and females. You'd never tell what's what. And what they do is they do group spawning. So it's like at night and they rush up to the surface. They don't pair at all.
Yeah, they just mix their.
Yeah, they just rush toward the surface. Let me find. Yeah, we've captive bred some now. Oh, here's somebody caught some fish spawning. So usually what the behavior is they rush toward the surface all together in a group and release gametes, eggs and sperm at the same time. And then it's just kind of like a soup, and that's it. Yeah. Here, it's very clear here. You see how they're like, they rush up together toward the surface, and they'll do it as a whole group. And
Wait, Flynn, do I go now?
yeah, I guess.
Passes for
11, I know.
Then which cafeteria am I supposed to eat in?
I'd go to D.
Go to D.
I mean, you go to the serving area,
Yeah.
and probably D, because E is like people eating and stuff. Yep.
All right,
Or-
let's see it, Flynn.
A slide when it has the second name in parentheses, do you want us to just say, it says other common names are,
Yeah, like there are a couple different names. So there might be one common name. There could be two common names. The name that I listed is like what I know it as. But different parts of the world, they call it something different. But in the end, so like here, it just says Cotterns cardinal fish. But most people call these Bangai cardinal fish because they're from the Bangai archipelago. Like here it says Cotterns cardinal, also known as Bangai cardinal or longfin cardinal.
so just when it says like other common names are, we'll just choose one for that.
Yeah, like Dory is commonly called a regal tang. It's also called a blue tang. It's also called a hippo tang. Those are equal